It started with a death notice on a website and a staggering mystery. In early 2019, users of Canada's largest cryptocurrency exchange, QuadrigaCX, woke up to devastating news. Their CEO, 30-year-old Gerald Cotten, had died suddenly during a trip to India. And with him, apparently, went the only keys to $190 million of customers' cryptocurrency. In an instant, 115,000 people were locked out of their money.
One of Canada's best-known cryptocurrency exchanges says it does not have access to $190 million worth of customer funds and is seeking creditor protection. The parent company of the BC-based QuadrigaCX says it lost access to the cryptocurrency after the death of its 30-year-old CEO, Gerald Cotten, in December. The missing coins are held in so-called cold wallets, and that's a type of offline storage that protects against hackers. Cotten had the only virtual keys to those wallets when he died, leaving thousands of investors in limbo.
When the news broke, panic and confusion spread. Investors flooded online forums and social media, desperately seeking answers. Many had poured their life savings into QuadrigaCX. Now, those savings were stuck in a crypto limbo, perhaps gone forever.
Recently, this Canadian crypto exchange company called QuadrigaCX is filing for creditor protection, which means basically they're one step away from bankruptcy. And I kind of got caught up in it, unfortunately. And yeah, I pretty much ended up losing my life savings because of it. And it's really kind of a crazy story how it happened.
Was the young CEO truly dead? Or had he vanished with a fortune, leaving a trail of shattered lives and unanswered questions? I'm Richard Enlow, and this is Proof of Stake, where we uncover the biggest stories, scandals, and legends in crypto. Today, QuadrigaCX, the story of Gerald Cotten and the missing millions. Act 1. The Rise of QuadrigaCX. Before the scandal and the speculation, there was a promise. The promise of a bold new frontier in finance. Our story begins in 2013 in Vancouver, Canada, with two young Bitcoin enthusiasts, Gerald Cotten and his associate Michael Patron. Cotten was in his mid-20s, fresh out of university, with an easy smile and an almost evangelical excitement for cryptocurrency. Together, they founded a new exchange called QuadrigaCX, hoping to ride the first big wave of Bitcoin mania.
I'm joined by Gerald Cotten, who is the president of Quadriga Fintech Solutions. So tell us about Quadriga Fintech Solutions and what your technology is.
So Quadriga Fintech Solutions is the parent company of QuadrigaCX, which is Canada's largest Bitcoin exchange. We're basically a clearinghouse where Bitcoin traders across the country buy and sell Bitcoin. Approximately 80% of all Bitcoin trading in Canada takes place on our platform, as well as a lot of the merchant transactions that also take place in Bitcoin in this country.
He was positioning QuadrigaCX as a user-friendly gateway into crypto, an exchange for the people, as he liked to say. In those early days, QuadrigaCX seemed to deliver on its promises. The platform launched in late 2013, even debuting one of Canada's first Bitcoin ATMs in a trendy Toronto cafe. Bitcoin's value was exploding, and Gerald Cotten presented himself as a visionary riding that rocket. He gave talks explaining Bitcoin in simple terms.
So Bitcoin is a digital currency. It's also a payment network. It can also be used to send money worldwide. I like to compare it to cash for the internet.
By 2017, as Bitcoin hit record highs, QuadrigaCX was booming. Cotten, known to friends as Jerry, had become the sole director of the company. He ran Quadriga from his laptop, often literally from his living room in Nova Scotia. The exchange had no physical bank accounts and relied on third-party payment processors to handle customer money. Despite these scrappy operations, QuadrigaCX was handling astonishing volume, about 1.2 billion Canadian dollars in trades in 2017 alone. To the public, Quadriga was the golden ticket to the crypto revolution. But even as Quadriga's user base swelled to over 100,000, cracks were forming beneath the surface.
Firstly, I really do feel terrible for all the Quadriga users that have money tied up on the exchange during this whole fiasco. I'm making this video to quickly summarize what's going on with the whole situation, as I know many Canadians, my people, are unfortunately affected by it. The issues leading up to this day began back in January 2018 when CIBC froze Quadriga's bank accounts holding $28 million. So all throughout 2018, this created Canadian dollar withdrawal and deposit issues on the exchange. However, there were still some withdrawals and deposits being processed, keeping people optimistic and keeping the exchange afloat.
Indeed, as early as spring 2018, users on Reddit and Twitter were voicing alarm. Withdrawal requests that should have taken days were taking weeks, then months. A Canadian couple told Global News they wired $100,000 to Quadriga to buy Bitcoin, and then the money vanished into limbo. 2 months later, they still hadn't received their crypto or a refund. "I just want my money back," the husband Jan pleaded in March 2018. Quadriga's support claimed their bank was holding the funds, but the couple got the runaround at every turn. Meanwhile, large transactions were getting stuck. In January 2018, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce froze about 28 million Canadian dollars belonging to Quadriga's payment processor, suspecting it couldn't identify whose money it was. This freeze snowballed into even more withdrawal problems. Gerald Cotten assured users the issue was simply a lack of support from traditional banks for crypto businesses. He went on Canadian TV and blamed the system. The big banks don't understand crypto, he argued. That's why customers can't get their cash out. But some insiders later pointed to a different reality. Quadriga's back-end systems were a mess. The company had no proper accounting. In fact, when court-appointed investigators later examined the books, they found Quadriga couldn't produce even the most basic of accounting summaries. It was a one-man show that had grown too fast, with Cotten juggling code, customer service, and millions in deposits all at once. Then there was the $14 million worth of Ethereum that Quadriga lost in 2017 to a supposed smart contract bug. That incident rattled users' confidence. Where had those coins really gone? Quadriga never fully explained. By mid-2018, as crypto markets plunged from their highs, Quadriga's facade was beginning to crumble. Customers were getting anxious. On user forums, a chilling sentiment began to surface. What if Quadriga doesn't actually have our money? Still, despite the warning signs, nothing could have prepared Quadriga's users for what came next. In January 2019, an announcement would throw the crypto community into chaos and turn Gerald Cotten from a rising star into the central figure of a global mystery. Act 2. The Fall. The Vanishing CEO and the Locked Wallet. On January 14, 2019, QuadrigaCX's website delivered a bombshell.
It is with a heavy heart that we announce the sudden passing of our founder and CEO, Gerald Cotten. A visionary leader who transformed the lives of those around him. He will be greatly missed.
Quadriga's customers were stunned. Gerald Cotten, just 30 years old, dead? It felt unreal. Official word was that Cotten had died a month earlier, on December 9, 2018, while traveling in Jaipur, India. The cause? Complications from Crohn's disease, a chronic intestinal illness. Cotten had been in India, supposedly on a honeymoon with his new wife Jennifer Robertson, and planning to open an orphanage for children in need. Now, he was gone. The news didn't emerge for over a month after his death. During that month, interestingly, QuadrigaCX had continued accepting customer deposits as if nothing was wrong. Now, in the January announcement, Quadriga finally informed everyone that their sole CEO was deceased. And along with that announcement came a dire problem. Nobody could access the exchange's funds. Gerald Cotten, they said, had been the only person with the passwords needed to access Quadriga's cold wallets, the offline cryptocurrency storage where the majority of user funds were kept. His laptop was encrypted, his passwords unknown, even to his wife. In an affidavit to the court, Jennifer Robertson wrote, "The laptop from which Jerry carried out the company's business is encrypted, and I do not know the password or recovery key. Despite repeated and diligent searches, I have not been able to find them written down anywhere." In other words, $190 million in Bitcoin and other cryptos were effectively locked away, inaccessible. And QuadrigaCX, once Canada's biggest crypto exchange, was out of business overnight. Within 2 weeks of going public about Jerry's death, the QuadrigaCX website went down for maintenance and never reopened. By the end of January 2019, Quadriga filed for creditor protection, essentially declaring it could not pay its debts. Panicked users flooded into courtrooms and chat rooms alike, demanding answers. The more authorities and journalists dug into the circumstances, the stranger it all became. Cotten's death certificate from India surfaced, but there was a typo in his name reading Gerald William Cotten with an A instead of an E. Local hospital reports showed he was admitted in acute distress and died within 24 hours, but no autopsy was performed. The doctor who signed the death report later told reporters that the case still haunted him. "We are not sure about the diagnosis," the Indian gastroenterologist admitted, noting how sudden the decline was. Cotten's body was embalmed and flown back to Canada, where he had a closed casket funeral. Only a few people had actually seen the body. And then there was Cotten's will. Unbeknownst to everyone at the time, just 12 days before he died, Jerry had prepared a detailed will. He signed it on November 27, 2018, leaving all his assets, an estate valued at about 12 million Canadian dollars, to his wife, Jennifer. The will specified lavish possessions, real estate in multiple countries, a Lexus, a Cessna plane, even a $600,000 yacht. He set aside $100,000 in trust to care for the couple's 2 pet chihuahuas, Nitro and Gully. The timing and details were highly unusual for a healthy 30-year-old on his honeymoon. It was as if Jerry Cotten knew something big was about to happen. With Cotten gone, Quadriga's remaining representatives, essentially Jennifer and a few lawyers, pleaded with the court and the crypto community for patience. Experts were hired to try to crack Jerry's encrypted laptop and recover the funds. They tried everything, hacking into email accounts, searching for recovery hints. Nothing worked. It was as if the money had vanished into the digital ether. But outside Quadriga's offices, or what was left of them, others were already on the hunt. Independent blockchain analysts and creditors' lawyers began combing through public cryptocurrency records. Remember, every Bitcoin transaction is traceable on the blockchain. If Quadriga had cold wallets, their addresses and balances could potentially be identified. Perhaps the funds hadn't moved at all since Jerry's reported death, which would support the story that they were stuck. Or perhaps they had moved, which would suggest someone else had access to them. In early 2019, armchair sleuths on Reddit claimed to have spotted what might be Quadriga's wallet sending crypto out when they shouldn't have. Rumors flew that some of Quadriga's cryptocurrency reserves were on the move after Jerry died, raising red flags that maybe someone was siphoning money. It was hard to know what to believe. Quadriga hadn't published its wallet addresses. Then, a breakthrough. The court-appointed monitor, global accounting firm Ernst & Young, EY, announced it had managed to identify several supposed Quadriga cold wallets. And what they found was shocking. The wallets were empty. In fact, they had been emptied long before Jerry's trip to India. In April 2018, the remaining Bitcoin in the identified cold wallets was transferred out, bringing the balances down to nil, EY reported. That was a full 8 months before Cotten's death. All those hundreds of Bitcoins that were supposed to be kept safe in cold storage? Gone. Investigators also discovered that Quadriga had virtually no real corporate controls. Jerry ran everything. He had been trading customer funds on other exchanges under pseudonyms. EY uncovered 14 suspicious accounts created on Quadriga's own system under false names, clearly belonging to Cotten, which were used to fake trades and withdraw cryptocurrency to addresses not associated with Quadriga. In essence, Quadriga was paying out old customers with new customers' deposits. The puzzle pieces were falling into place, and they painted a damning picture. QuadrigaCX wasn't just a victim of one man's lost password. It was a house of cards concealing a massive fraud. By June 2019, the Ontario Securities Commission launched an investigation. A year later, in 2020, the OSC concluded that QuadrigaCX collapsed due to a Ponzi scheme operated by founder Gerald Cotten. Cotten had lied about assets, cooked the books, and spent or lost most of the money long before his death was announced. Cotten opened accounts under aliases and credited himself with fictitious currency and crypto balances, which he traded with unsuspecting clients, regulators found. When the crypto markets went haywire in 2018, Cotten's gambles caused a huge shortfall, one he covered up by using new deposits to pay other users. It was an old-fashioned swindle cloaked in modern technology, investigators later said. For Quadriga's users, these revelations were whiplash. First, they lost access to their money because their CEO allegedly died with the keys. Next, they're told that even if they had the keys, the money's not there anymore. It was all a mirage. Thousands of people, from school teachers to software engineers, had been duped. One of them, Tong Zhu, the investor we heard earlier, had moved from California to Canada and put his entire net worth into QuadrigaCX in 2018. He was trying to avoid bank fees while moving money between countries. Tong Zhu later said, "Once I deposited it, it was basically gone. I kept emailing Quadriga. Where's my money? October, November, December. There was nothing I could do. It turned out to be a scam." When Jerry's death was revealed, Zhu realized with horror that he might never see a cent of his $500,000 again. The picture was becoming clearer, but the truth was almost harder to believe than the initial fiction. Yes, QuadrigaCX had been a fraud, but what about Jerry? If he had indeed perpetrated a Ponzi scheme, what really happened in India? Was his death part of the plan, or an unfortunate coincidence that turned a financial collapse into a conspiracy frenzy? Even as forensic accountants were unraveling the money trail, another parallel investigation was underway, one led by furious investors determined to answer the burning question, where in the world is Gerald Cotten?
Well, here is an absolutely terrifying story for anyone who has ever invested money with someone you don't really know. If you've invested anything through the internet, if you've invested in crypto, could the person that you invest your money with fake their own death and then make off with, I don't know, $200 million? Yeah, that's what people think Jerry Cotten did. And the people who think he did that are the people who invested all their money with him. A lot of people, the investors, they started talking to each other, started their own investigation, and it is now the subject of a new Netflix documentary.
Act 3. Theories, Investigations, and Where the Money Went. In the wake of Quadriga's collapse, a swirl of theories and wild stories erupted, turning Jerry Cotten into something of a legend, or a ghost. Let's break down the leading theories that emerged. Theory 1. Jerry faked his own death. This was the most popular theory among the cheated investors. Think about it. A young CEO goes to India, a place known for somewhat bureaucratic paper trails, with a wife he'd only married months earlier. He allegedly dies suddenly from a condition that, while serious, rarely kills so abruptly. There's no autopsy, a closed casket, a late death announcement, a new will made just before traveling, and hundreds of millions in untraceable currency at stake. To many, this did not smell right. As one Quadriga customer, Yana Brennar, told ABC News, "For them to say they can't produce an address, it just smells like something doesn't make sense." She remembers the moment she heard of Cotten's death. Her first thought was, "My money is gone." Investors shared theories on Telegram and Reddit that Jerry might have altered his appearance and was hiding out in Southeast Asia or the Caribbean, living off the loot. After all, he had taken trips to those regions before. Could he be laying low there now? Some noted that India is one of the few countries that allow quick embalming and closed casket funerals without extensive investigation. An opportunist could exploit that. This theory gained so much traction that in December 2019, Quadriga's own creditors formally asked the RCMP to exhume Cotten's body to confirm if it was really him in the grave. Their letter cited the questionable circumstances of his death and requested a post-mortem autopsy. To this day, there has been no exhumation, but the mere fact that victims felt compelled to request one shows how deep the doubts ran. And yes, Jennifer Robertson, Cotten's widow, said she was heartbroken and outraged at the idea of disturbing her husband's grave. Theory 2. A third party stole the funds and possibly even killed Cotten. This theory posits that maybe Jerry was innocent in his intent, and some bad actor hacked Quadriga or got access to the wallets, and either Cotten's death was incidental or arranged to cover tracks. Perhaps one of the payment processors, or even co-founder Michael Patron, who had parted ways with Quadriga years earlier, could have been involved. Patron, it turned out, had a criminal past. He was convicted in the US under the name Omar Danani for identity theft and fraud years before. So when Quadriga fell apart, fingers naturally pointed to him as well. Patron denied involvement and said he left Quadriga in 2016 after a dispute. There's no evidence that anyone murdered Jerry or stole the crypto at the last minute. The blockchain records indicate the money was gone long before December 2018. But in the frenzy of speculation, this theory added a darker twist. Theory 3. Quadriga was a Ponzi scheme from day one, and Jerry's death was just an unfortunate, if convenient, coincidence. In this version, Cotten is not hiding on a beach. He really did die in India, taking his secrets to the grave, leaving everyone else to realize the cupboard was bare. This theory ultimately aligns with what the official investigations concluded. Jerry was running a fraudulent scheme, and when he unexpectedly passed away, it all came crashing down. The Ontario Securities Commission's investigative report in 2020 flat out stated that Cotten was operating a Ponzi, and the collapse was inevitable. One investigator remarked that if Cotten were alive to face charges, he'd likely be looking at fraud indictments on a massive scale. In this scenario, there's no grand escape plot, just a tragic end to a reckless scam. So, which theory is true? At this point, officially, the third scenario is the one supported by evidence. By all accounts, Gerald Cotten did die on December 9, 2018 in Jaipur. There's a death certificate, hospital records, and witnesses in India. The Canadian authorities have not found any concrete evidence that he's alive, and the forensic accounting strongly indicates the money was gone long before his death. In fact, Ernst & Young eventually recovered a pittance, only about 30 million Canadian dollars, by liquidating Quadriga's remaining assets and even clawing back some funds from Cotten's estate. Jennifer Robertson agreed to forfeit about 12 million Canadian dollars in assets, essentially all of Jerry's identifiable wealth, to help repay Quadriga users. She maintained she had no idea of her husband's fraudulent activities, and authorities did not implicate her in the scheme. The vast majority of the missing crypto, however, was never found. It had been liquidated by Cotten, lost in bad trades, or spent. Investigators discovered that Cotten had, for years, lived extremely well on user funds, private jet trips around the world, luxury vehicles, dozens of properties, and that yacht aptly named the Gulliver. QuadrigaCX's coffers were treated like Jerry's personal piggy bank. By mid-2019, QuadrigaCX was officially bankrupt, owing 76,000 users more than $214 million in cash and coins. In early 2023, after years of legal wrangling, the bankruptcy trustee announced a final plan to compensate creditors. The catch? There was so little money recovered that victims would only get about 13% of their original claims paid out. For every dollar you lost on Quadriga, you'd be lucky to see 13 cents back. A glimmer of justice, perhaps, but cold comfort to those who lost fortunes. And what of Michael Patron, the mysterious co-founder with the checkered past? He largely stayed quiet during the fallout, but recently he popped back up in the crypto world under a new alias, 0xSifu, running a DeFi protocol, proving that even the most scandalous reputations don't always stick in crypto. However, Canadian authorities haven't forgotten him. In March 2024, British Columbia officials obtained an unexplained wealth order against Patron, a legal tool forcing him to account for how he got his riches. They've already seized a safety deposit box containing 250,000 Canadian dollars in cash, gold bars, Rolex watches, and even a handgun linked to him. The province's Minister of Public Safety pointed to Quadriga's victims, saying, "The international criminal actions of QuadrigaCX led to thousands of people losing their life savings." It appears the long arm of the law may yet reel in some of those who benefited from the scheme. If not Jerry, then perhaps others who were close to the fire. Zooming out, the QuadrigaCX saga was a wake-up call. Here was a centralized crypto exchange, a supposed pillar of the new financial order, that turned out to be no more than a facade for one man's fraudulent machinations. In the aftermath, Canada moved to tighten regulations on crypto exchanges, and users worldwide learned a painful lesson about trusting a single individual with their digital fortunes. A line that came up repeatedly was, "Not your keys, not your coins," meaning if you don't personally control your crypto wallet, you're at someone else's mercy. Quadriga drove that lesson home in the hardest way. And it wasn't the last crypto catastrophe, not by a long shot. In 2022, the world watched the spectacular implosion of FTX, a Bahamas-based crypto exchange led by Sam Bankman-Fried. That collapse left an estimated $8 billion hole in customer funds. At least $1 billion is still missing, unaccounted for to this day. Bankman-Fried was arrested and charged, and unlike Cotten, he's very much alive to face the music. And of course, there's the infamous OneCoin scam, the subject of the Missing Crypto Queen podcast, spearheaded by Dr. Ruja Ignatova. OneCoin's fake cryptocurrency plundered an astonishing $4 billion from investors around the globe. Ignatova, dubbed the Crypto Queen, vanished in 2017 and remains a fugitive on the FBI's most wanted list. These scams make it clear the cryptocurrency Wild West can mint billionaires one day and fugitives the next. In the grand scheme, QuadrigaCX's missing $190 million is a smaller fortune than OneCoin's $4 billion, or FTX's $8 billion. But the human impact is just as real. Lives were derailed, homes lost, marriages strained, futures upended. For the victims, it's not just numbers on a ledger, it's the very real pain of betrayal. One Canadian man, reeling from a $500,000 loss, told journalists his dream of buying a home was shattered. "When you have no trust and you have no money, what do you have?" he asked. It's a question many are still struggling to answer. And what of Gerald Cotten, the man at the center of the storm? In life, he was seen as a quirky whiz kid who found success early. In death, or in absence, he became something else, a character in a modern cautionary tale. If he truly died in India, then he's almost a tragic figure who got in way over his head, pulling a criminal stunt until fate intervened. If by some twist he's alive and out there, he'll live forever as a notorious villain of finance, looking over his shoulder until the end of his days. Either way, the crypto king of Canada built his throne on a lie, and that lie inevitably collapsed. The legacy of QuadrigaCX has prompted changes in the crypto industry, better security practices, more oversight, and a skeptical eye toward any exchange that seems too good to be true. But it also left a lingering sense of mystery. Visit Jerry's grave in Halifax, a grave some aren't even sure is occupied, and you'll find its granite tombstone. Under his name and dates, a line is engraved: "Beloved husband, dear friend, and a memory forever." For thousands who knew him only as customers of his exchange, the memory of Gerald Cotten will indeed last forever, just not for the reasons anyone expected. The story of QuadrigaCX isn't closed yet. Law enforcement and forensic accountants continue to chase leads on any missing funds. Perhaps someday more of that money will be recovered, or more truth about Jerry's final days will come to light. For now, it stands as one of the strangest chapters in cryptocurrency history, a blend of tragedy and fraud that we're all still trying to fully understand. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive inside the rise and fall of QuadrigaCX. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast. We have more investigative stories on the way, unraveling the mysteries and machinations behind the world of crypto and high finance. If you have tips or personal stories about this case or others, I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on your podcast platform. It really helps others find the show. And consider sharing this episode with friends, or anyone who says that could never happen in crypto, because as we've learned, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, keep your keys safe. And maybe think twice before trusting your entire fortune to one person with a password.